Everybody, welcome into the show tonight. I am Brian Keating. He is Carson Cunningham. It is time.
Crash the boards. We got a lot to tackle tonight.
Lot to tackle tonight because, look, we'll get to the Thunder in just a minute. A little college basketball, some moving and shaking in the college hoops. We got to start with Oklahoma.
Yep.
And a home game last night. The Sooner fans were clamoring, give me under the lights. And they got a night game there at Memorial Stadium, which had to hang on and win. They beat Iowa State 42-41. Whew. Exhale now.
They finally get a night game, and most people left the stadium.
Yeah.
There weren't very many people there at the end of the game. Look, it was a great first half. I mean, Lincoln Riley says the best they've played in a long time in the first half. They scored 35 on a really good defense.
It was a weird first half because they were ahead by a bunch, although it just had a strange
I did tell you at halftime, that's
yeah.
the most competitive 35-14 half I've ever watched.
Yeah.
But look, I think Iowa State exposed a lot of issues. Emphasis on the ISU, and I know that's not exactly how you spell issues, but it's close enough with the ISU.
Needs one more S. It's crashing the boards, man. There are no rules.
No rules here. They have issues. So starting with the defense, obviously, look, they collapsed. They gave up 20 straight points. What I want to know is where has the blitzing gone? Against Texas, they had 9 sacks, school record, 15 tackles for loss. They were all over the quarterback, and basically they came up to the line and said, Sam Ehlinger, we're blitzing, and we're going to hit you before you can throw it. We don't care if we know you're blitzing. And since then, Brian, 3 games later, they have had 1 sack since Texas. 1 sack. They're not pressuring the quarterback.
4 games?
3 games after the 3 games after Texas.
Yep.
And if you're sitting here wondering, gosh, why can't we get turnovers? Why can't we get turnovers? You're not hitting the quarterback. Your secondary is not good enough to sit back and just rush 3 guys. So that's a huge issue. Another issue, Brian, I know the offense scores a lot of points, but they have issues with Jalen Hurts throwing it up for grabs. He could have had 2 pick-sixes on the first 2 possessions. The first touchdown to CeeDee Lamb was in a triple coverage. He is being careless with the football. And I've said this ever since Kennedy Brooks has been on campus. Why do they refuse to give this guy the ball? He played behind Trey Sermon until he led the nation in yards per carry. He got less carries than Jalen Hurts last night. He's an elite running back. He had 9 yards per carry. They don't give him the football. So Oklahoma won. I get that. But they have a lot of issues moving forward that I think causes concern for their run to the Big 12 title.
I could sit here and you're right about a lot of those things, but at the end of the day, they're going to put that little check mark in the W column, and there's no such thing as a bad W. A bad win.
You've been listening to Lincoln Riley too much.
Hey, look, that's the way it is because college football has survived in advance, and I understand their style points in Oklahoma right now is 10th and makes them the last of all the one-loss teams trying to get into the college football playoff. I get that, but you survive in advance, and you just didn't figure out a way to lose on Saturday night. But you brought up turnovers, and that's where it is for me. I mean, it's another game. It's another game without a turnover. They are 125th in the country. That is next to last in turnovers forced. Them forced a turnover in 5 games. I mean, come on. The University of Oklahoma has better players than that. And you're right. The offense is good. And I think we thought the last few years, whether it was Baker or Kyler, man, this team is really close to winning the national championship. I just think they're not as good.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we'll figure out, maybe they'll blow out Baylor this weekend and all the problems will go away and you go, this is the Oklahoma team we saw for the first month and a half. I just think they're just not quite as good.
Their offensive line's not as good, and let's face it, Baker
and
Kyler were on another planet.
Right, and that's not even, I'm not even saying anything bad about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Their quarterback is not as good as the last 2 guys who are picked number 1 in the NFL.
Exactly. And
pop the graphic because here's the next big game. It's Oklahoma and Baylor, and talk about prime time Saturday night right here on Channel 5. Baylor's undefeated. I don't think there were many people across college football, probably including the Baylor head coach, that thought they would be 9-0.
Nobody in Waco thought that.
Nobody in Waco thought they'd be 9-0. Here they are. They're ranked 12th in the country, and if Baylor can figure out a way to beat Oklahoma on Saturday night, they have really put themselves in the college football playoff conversation.
Absolutely. Look, and game day is going to be there, so it's a huge game. And I have a ton of respect for Matt Rule. I think he's a heck of a coach. He took over a situation, Brian, that was just a slight step up above SMU and the death penalty. That's how bad of shape the football program was, the lack of scholarship players. He's really turned them around. Charlie Brewer's a great quarterback. But having said all that, this team reminds me so much of the 2015 Oklahoma State team that won a ton of close games. They were 10-0, and they had their biggest games in front of them, and they got blown off the field.
Yeah, it could happen.
I think Baylor's going back to earth. I think Oklahoma's going to blow them off the field. Look, it's a great story. And look, as many issues as I outlaid for Oklahoma, they still dropped 35 on Iowa State in the first half. I think they're going to play much better in Waco. Now, Can their defense tackle anybody? Can they sack the quarterback? Those questions remain, but I think Oklahoma's going to take care of business.
Yeah, it's Baylor's biggest game since 2015. You mentioned that 2015 team. Baylor was undefeated when Oklahoma was coming to Waco, and they did not win that game. It was a close game. And I think this is OU's most difficult environment that they're going to have to play in the last couple of years. I think you got to go back to Bedlam in 2017. That was a very difficult environment. Those Waco folks believe, and they know what's coming in. So look, I'm picking OU to win the game, but are they going to? I don't know if they can blow. I don't know who they can blow out these days. I mean, they're playing close. They're not playing good defense. Their quarterback's making mistakes. So on a week in, week out business, I think Lincoln Riley's going to have to coach the best he's ever coached at Oklahoma to win games. And he's got the more talented team, but it's not going to be as easy as the last couple of years where we just go, Baker, go out there and win, and Kyler, go win. I don't think that's who they are.
Well, here's who Baylor is. They beat Tech by 3 in double overtime, West Virginia by 3, and TCU in triple overtime. They've been skirting by, and Oklahoma's a much different animal.
No question. Let's talk about Oklahoma State before we get out of here. And hey, this will be fun because they have Kansas coming to Stillwater. You know what that means?
The return of the Mad Hatter, baby.
The return of the Mad Hatter. The last time OSU fans had to deal with Les Miles, he was in the locker room at the Alamo Bowl trying to figure out how to get to Baton Rouge. And so, I don't think there's just tons of love lost for Cowboys fans. Les Miles coming into the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a kind of an awkward reunion. Where have you been all these years after you skirted town? But no, like I said before Kansas even hired Les Miles, they should hire Les Miles because he's going to make them respectable.
Yeah.
And he's already done that in year one. It's only a 17-point line. OSU used to be favored by like 35 against Kansas. But the thing I really want to focus on is this is a great opportunity with Chase Young being suspended at Ohio State, the talented defensive end, with Tua Tagovailoa losing. The highway to the Heisman is open for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
How high can he get on the rushing scale? He's still leading the country by 150 yards despite sitting 2 bye weeks. He's on pace for 2,100 yards. I think he can make a run to New York City and be there for the Heisman ceremony. Whether he's going to win or not, I don't know. But playing against Kansas is a great opportunity to roll up some numbers. And I expect Oklahoma State to win, but it's not going to be as easy as it has been in years past against the Jayhawks. Les Miles made them very respectable.
I already put the lead out there. The hat is back. I mean, that's the story. If this game is uber competitive, I just think that means with a week off, means Mike Gundy and company didn't get this team ready to play. They're far more talented than Kansas. Les Miles has got them to play hard, so they play very hard. They've been more competitive, but Oklahoma State far more talented. And you're right. A big afternoon is possible for Chuba. Can he go get 250? Dare I say 300 yards?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get yourself really into the Heisman race. You go get 250.
It becomes undeniable at that point. And look, Oklahoma State's rebounded so nicely. Their season was in disarray, but now if you beat Kansas, you beat a bad West Virginia team, you're looking at 8, maybe 9 wins.
Their defense is playing pretty good. 14 turnovers gained. They've got 7 in the last 2 ball games. Jim Knowles, we were critical of at the beginning of the season. He's doing a good job.
He really is. Good hire by Mike Gundy. He's turned out to be a good coach.